to the Football Tribe channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back. Always good to be here on a beautiful Wednesday morning like this. It's a half past the hour of 9 a.m. and yeah, we are glad to be here for yet another live broadcast. Apologies for being late. These days a lot happens in my morning routines, but trust me, I'll be doing better. Particularly for this morning, it was an issue that I needed to iron out with YouTube because I got a notification that was a bit concerning on my part last night in regards to some advanced features being blocked and things like that. So I needed to understand what that meant and what the implications were. So yeah, that's what is caused my lateness today. But anyways, we are here and we are going to enjoy this podcast. I hope so. I hope we do. Last night we were here once again as we enjoyed that game between England and Serbia, with England putting 5 past Serbia, but also we did discuss the appointment of Ange Postecoglou as the new Nottingham Forest manager. We're going to be speaking a little more about that and also get an update on what's to come in as far as the weekend is concerned, because league football does return. But anyways, allow me have our audience tested and make sure everything does check out before we can proceed with today morning's special broadcast. Otherwise, I want to say thank you to every single one of you that has managed to, excuse me, I think our audience do check out well. I want to say thank you so much to all our new community members, the new subscribers. It's good to have you on the blog, on the community. Then also for those of you, I hope you do enjoy your stay here. For those of you that have been watching our content, thank you so much. Yesterday, we did put out another video with Aldrin Subuga Senior, a long-time Liverpool fan, a KCCA fan, but also a football writer, pundit, and broadcaster. We did have that interview. It's about 55 minutes, nearly 56. So for those of you that have watched the entirety of it, thank you so much. For those of you that have watched part of it, I do not take your love and support for granted. I do appreciate you as well in a similar bread. So that means those are 2 videos that we will put out in interviews with him. The first did come on Sunday. We dropped that on Sunday evening, and then the other dropped yesterday. We did do that because essentially yesterday's video is a continuation from what we had discussed on Sunday, because of limited time we had to cut it short on Sunday, and then we had to get to have a do-over tomorrow, or a continuation, which he managed to grant us, and we got that done yesterday, and we put out that video in which we talk about so many things. He gave us his predictions for his top 4. He does think that Liverpool will win the Premier League title, and he gives his justifications for that. On the contrary, I think Arsenal will win the Premier League title, but also he thinks Ruben Amorim isn't the right man for Manchester United. He talks about the profile of a manager, and he feels that Ruben Amorim is not it. Then we talk about Chelsea and where their inefficiencies are in regards to a pursuit of a Premier League title and more glory. We also speak a little bit about Manchester City and their period of transition. Pep Guardiola there, and where he thinks they will finish. We also have had hints on Nottingham Forest's appointment of Ange Postecoglou in the aftermath of the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo, who has been at the club for about 20 months. So all that, we did digest that in that video. So please do go watch the video. But also, if you're new to the channel, forget not to please subscribe. So do me the absolute honors and favors and watch those videos. Leave a comment, leave a like. It helps the algorithm further recommend our content to other people. Really. So please do me that absolute honor and favor, and make sure you do watch those videos. Then quickly, for example, apologies. Wow, that's interesting. Anyways, not just good. Anyways, sorry, I was looking at an average watch time of one of our videos, and the average time wasn't too pleasing. It wasn't too pleasing. But nonetheless, like I said, we will go to start things off um, with uh, with Nottingham Forest. We know Nuno Espirito Santo was sacked. We know he came in to replace Steve Cooper. That was in December 2023, when Nottingham Forest, after all the investment that they had put into the club, was still facing down the barrel of relegation. And he managed to steer them away from relegation. Yes, they still finished just a place above relegation, and that was in 17th place. Okay. And that was still above relegation in 17th place, but they managed to stay in the top flight. Then we went into the new season. The expectations for Nottingham Forest weren't anything beyond finishing or weren't anything beyond the survival of relegation once again. And not to say that the club has that small aspirations, but I mean, we just wanted to keep our expectations in check and realistic. But he did surprise us, Nuno Espirito Santo, guiding Nottingham Forest to a seventh place finish, 10 places above where they had managed to finish at the previous campaign. Let me adjust my screen light. I feel that, okay, the visibility is not good. Okay, good. Let me make sure all comments can come through in case they do come through so that I don't miss out on any. So, 10 places above where they had managed to finish at the previous campaign. Now, under ordinary circumstances or under ideal circumstances, one would wonder, like, why do you sack a manager that has given you that success? I mean, previous season, you merely survived relegation. Following season, you're qualifying for Europe. Yes, merely they had qualified for Europa Conference League, and towards around March, they were still in the direct competition. Even in April, they were in competition for a top plus a top four finish, to qualify for UEFA Champions League football, which again would have meant much more. But then they fell short of that. Nonetheless, because if you fall short on teams like Chelsea, on teams like Newcastle, on teams like Aston Villa that have consistently been within those positions, then it's only understandable, really. It's only understandable if you are Nottingham Forest. And nonetheless, they still managed, while they qualified for the UEFA Conference League, they managed to be upgraded to the UEFA Europa League because in the process, Crystal Palace were penalized. Remember, Crystal Palace beat up against Manchester City in the FA Cup final and directly qualified for the UEFA Europa League. So, but because they had breached club ownership rules, because their then shareholder in John Textor was a shareholder or is a shareholder, majority shareholder in Olympic Lyon that were bound to play in the same competition. So UEFA found them guilty of being in breach of club ownership rules, and then they had them relegated to the UEFA Conference League. Their appeals to the Court of Arbitration for Sport did not yield much fruit because the Court of Arbitration for Sport simply rubber stamped what UEFA had already told them. So that's how Nottingham Forest get upgraded to the UEFA Europa League at the expense of Crystal Palace. But all that notwithstanding, in the process of transfer business, the club were acting slowly. The manager had wanted his players quick enough to have a good preseason with them and take on the season from there. Nonetheless, he wasn't given that opportunity, or he wasn't extended that courtesy. But partly is because Nottingham Forest needed that sort of confirmation. Where were they going to play in as far as European football was concerned? Was it going to be the UEFA Conference League or the Europa League? For me, because we know that one is a level above the other, so that means it may require different requirements of players and quality within your squad. So for them to be able to achieve that, they had to wait, and that's why after those confirmations, they were able to bring in many signings. In any case, they signed as many as 13 players, including on deadline day, Alexander Zicheko, Karim Mwendo being brought in, Igor Jesus, bringing in players like James McAtee, bringing in players like Omar Hudson, Danny Ndoye. all these are players that have been brought into the composition. Now, some to the contrary of the then manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, who was having a rift with the new club head of football or global football in Edu Gaspar Dawood, the former Arsenal sporting director. Now, the sporting director, the head of football, in his view, is that we need to have a broader squad because we are going to be competing both in the Premier League. We want to still finish within the top, the top places. In any case, they wouldn't want to fall below seventh place. They would want to improve on that in as far as the Premier League is concerned. But also, they want to compete favorably in the UEFA Europa League. So how do they guarantee that? Is by having a good squad, but not just a good squad, a squad that is a squad that has depth. Depth in numbers, but also depth in quality. So when you bring in players like Douglas Luiz, on loan from Juventus with an obligation to buy, 27-year-old, didn't have the best of times at Juventus, but we know what he's capable of, having been at Aston Villa. So you look at that and say, well, indeed, this is something that we really, really need well within the squad. So it's only understandable that they make those such investments. However, when you look on the other side of Nuno Espirito Santo, in his argument, he thinks he wants to have a bit of a shorter squad, and he doesn't want to have 36 players. He doesn't want to have to deal with 27, 25 players. He wants a nuclear squad of about 18 to 20 players. He believes that at least a majority, if not all his players, within the team should be able to make the match the squad. But also on the other side, you must feel for the head of global football, because he has that experience. He knows that while that may be a good thing, and the manager was well reasoned to have those reasons, and you can have injuries, and injuries can cost you. We saw what they cost at Tottenham Hotspur last season. Eventually, it's what led to the sacking of Ange Postecoglou. Not that injuries were the cause, but injuries contributed to their poor performances. In as far as the Premier League was concerned, they ended up finishing 17th on the Premier League table, which Tottenham chairman Daniel Levy at the time was unacceptable. A performance for a team of Tottenham's stature that they ended up sacking Ange Postecoglou, despite him helping them to win, a UEFA Europa League title, which was their first major title in about 17 years. So you look at all that context, and Edu Gaspar Dawood knows one too well about all those circumstances. So you need to better position yourself to mitigate those kinds of circumstances. And I think, or I would want to think, that at least they did just good enough to ensure that that was not the case, to ensure that they have a decent squad. That was the objective. But like I said, the manager and Edu did not see eye to eye. That was an open secret. And then, also, the manager went, I wouldn't want to say bare knuckles, but he went out in public and sang like a canary, expressing his dissatisfaction with the manager. Expressing his dissatisfaction with the club owner in in terms of the slowness of doing transfer business, but also saying their relationship had started to grow distant. That it was going apart with time. And that was in itself a bit of a concern. So it reached a point where phrases could not be amended between the manager and the club owner in Evangelos Marinakis. So with that said, it is what culminated into the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo, and we saw his exit. But also, apparently, according to club miners, they say that they want the club to play better football, more beautiful football, a progressive football, and the appointment of their new manager in Ange Postecoglou is what solidifies that intent, because there is a sharp contrast between what you had in Nuno Espirito Santo versus what you're going to get in Ange Postecoglou, because we are talking about a conservative manager on one side, and then you're talking about a very progressive manager, a very liberal manager, a manager that wants to play this, distributive football. They want to dominate possession, wants his defenders as high up the pitch as possible, and things like that. Sort of take a lead on the counter press, while Nottingham Forest oftentimes are more like a basketball team. Once you lose possession, retreat back a bit. Once you win that ball, catch this team on the counter attack and things like that. And it's a model that worked well for Nottingham Forest, if we are being honest, if the results are anything to go by from last season. So I do not think there's anything we can hold against Nuno Espirito Santo. In any case, he walks away with his CV intact, more intact than he could say for himself when he was shown the exit at Tottenham Hotspur. I think that was around November 2021. Yes, around November 2021, before then Tottenham Hotspur took on Antonio Conte as a replacement. So really, in that sense, so for those that are looking for a new manager, then Nuno Espirito Santo could be their go-to guy. When we're making our season predictions in regards to among the candidates or managers that could be sacked first or could be shown the exit, I do not think, and neither do I remember Nuno Espirito's name coming anywhere close or even close. In any case, I believe that maybe one of the managers from the teams that were newly promoted from the championship could be one of those. Is it going to be Scott Parker at Burnley? Again, we wait and see. Is it going to be Daniel Fakir at Leeds United or Regis? Is it Regis at Sunderland? Is it going to be him? So those were some of the questions. Or more significantly, is it going to be Ruben Amorim at Manchester United? Because we know, in any case, things could easily go sideways with Manchester United. So bad so that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his football directors could sit to the round table and say, we cannot continue this anymore. Let's count our losses and move on from Ruben Amorim and things like that. So Nuno Espirito Santo's sacking is not one we saw from a mile away. It's not one we saw coming at any one point in as far as the season. In any case, my prediction was that they were going to do better. Sorry, they were going to do fairly well in the UEFA Europa League, but we would see their performances in the Premier League sort of decline. Now, Ange Postecoglou walks in. We all know he was after Tottenham Hotspur at the tail end of last season. We know what caused that sacking, but also he is a manager who says always wins the title in his second year. With Nottingham Forest, what will be that title? Now, we will consider next season. If he can't make it to as far as next season, the second year, because this in itself is a first full-blown season. It's a first full-blown season. There's no hiding to it. There's no way around it because when you walk in as a manager and all you have is and you've only missed 3 games, that's money, very, very minor, because in any case, the season is curtain rises or openers are more of an extension to the preseason. So we can consider it that. So, and yesterday night, I was giving the example of, I was giving an example of Jason Tindo, who filled in the void on the bench for Eddie Howe when Eddie Howe was out, injured and things like that. So really, it's only understandable that we consider this a full-blown season. In any case, the UEFA Europa League season has not yet kicked off. It does kick off next week, so he has everything to cover for himself. So basically, how do we expect him to fare? Personally, I'm eager to see what he does that squad with, or how because how he handles that squad. The expectation is he's going to be in the dugout for Nottingham Forest district on Saturday in the early kickoff at 14:30 hours when Arsenal host Nottingham Forest. Bit of a difficult away trip, not the kind of game that you want to start with. Can be a baptism of fire, but he should take advantage or solace in knowing that early kickoffs can often be tricky, even for the biggest of teams, even Arsenal inclusive. So, but are we going to see a significant shift in style of play? Like I said, there's a sharp contrast between the ex-manager in Nuno Espirito Santo and that of Ange Postecoglou in regards to how they want their teams or to apply themselves in as far as football is concerned. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. How does he handle it all? how are things going to look like, when it comes to that. So we'll have to wait for the weekend to come around for us to know how things will go in that regard. Then, oh, apologies, Jesus Christ. Okay, yes. Last night, like I said, England were winners, as many as European teams in their World Cup qualifiers, including Portugal, beating 3-2 against Hungary. France did win their game 2-1 against Iceland, while Azerbaijan and Ukraine shared the spoils in a 1-all draw. Armenia beat up against Ireland by goal to nil, while Cyprus and Romania shared the spoils in a 2-all draw. Austria beat up against Bosnia and Herzegovina, while Moldova were treated quite a thumping by Norway in an 11-1 victory. Albania beat up against Latvia 1-0, while England put 5 past Serbia. Hurricane, Noni Madueke, Mackay, Marcus Rashford, and Ezri Kosa were the goal scorers for England on the day. They had a very, very beautiful game. It was a dominant performance from them. And Noni Madueke had a beautiful game, really. So much to the excitement of Arsenal fans, and many of whom were bashing his signature in the first place. So that was it on that side. On the African continent, still as far as the World Cup qualifiers are concerned, the biggest hustle and bustle was between that game between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Senegal. Senegal coming from 2 goals behind to win it 3-2, so much to the anguish of the DRC fans who broke seats within the stadium in protest or in a show of dissatisfaction to their team, because that result in itself meant that Senegal's victory saw them leapfrog over DRC Congo to take the top spot in Group B with a tally of 18 points, while DRC Congo remained second with 16 points with only 2 games left to play. And back on. Yes, we are back on. Let me hope it's going to be the same case on my other devices. But it looks like we are back. Anyways, these kinds of things happen. They are very, very unfortunate. But we just have to live with them. We just have to live with them. Anyways, like I was saying, plenty of action is coming your way across major leagues in Europe, as far as, and then subsequently in the coming week, I will have UEFA Champions League football, returning to our screens, and Europa League football will have we'll have a Conference League, and so much football is going to come our way. And then later on, we'll have, I think, the third round of the Carabao Cup will come, and things like that until the October international break. But guys, it's 10 a.m. I see we're not too many on the broadcast, so allow me to wrap this one up here and wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.